Hello folks, this time we are going to do another exercise in which I will include arc DME, go around entry in the hold, and subsequent arc DME again, ILS and landing, all flown raw data. So let's pull up the chart for runway 19 as usual at this location. Kilo Bravo Kilo Whiskey. First of all, let's check the weather condition. We have altimeter 29908. Let's set it up real quick. There on the standby instrument. We got the ILS and the VOR ready. Let me pull the chart. There it is. So we can see the go around. It's to establish on the radial 324 out of the Bravo Kilo Whiskey VOR. So if I remember well, initially we climbed to 3,300 feet on runway heading, then we turned right 360 heading to establish on 324, and we go to 17.4 miles to enter the hold at point NJTTR and UTTR. There you can see better the go around heading north and then 324 radial outbound. We can also really climb to 3,300 as I said before, then climbing right turn to 5,000, which is the go around altitude, to establish on a 360 heading, and then radial 324 outbound to point Neutre, November Uniform Tango Tango Romeo at 17.4 miles. Then we enter the hold with a teardrop entry. 144 inbound, right turn, standard. So after departure, the plan is to turn left to establish on 15 DME arc clockwise. Here I'm activating the transponder, landing lights on. I see I forgot the strobe light, whatever, and seat belts, little details, irrelevant I would say for our exercise, even though it's always good to have the discipline and the forma mentis to remember what's essential, what's important. But that's not the scope of today's flight. Today's flight scope is manual flying skill, conventional navigation, energy management, without any automotion, without use of any automotion. So no flight director, as always, no autopilot, no throttle. So we entered runway 01, which is the reciprocal of the ILS we're going to shoot later. Right, let's make the chart ready for use. This is a single pilot aircraft, so it's always a good idea to plan ahead. I'm now going to check, for my curiosity, the checklist to figure out whether the ignition should be on or auto for departure. Again, not important at all for today's flight. It was just out of curiosity. Couldn't find anything, so I figured probably has to just stay in auto. Embraer 300, very modern aircraft, so everything is auto basically. Very simple to fly. So parking brake released. Let's put the thrust lever to toga. I'm trying the toga button, but of course it doesn't do anything. Yeah, alright, let's go. Let's go toga, that's it. Let's verify toga indication on top of the N1 gauges. Okay, I don't like to see the flight director. Take it off. Yeah, that's the way. Airspeed is alive. Let's keep the center line as much as we can. And we have our 80 knots. That's V1. Rotate. Nose up to 10 degrees ish. positive rate. Gear comes up. They are in transit, yellow lights, and now it's showing up on the 3. So here I make my first mistake. Instead of going 90 degree to the bearing pointer, I have done what I have done other flights, so heading 330, which is not part of our briefing, doesn't matter too much. What matter really is the precision flight. That's why it was asymmetrical, because the thrust levels were asymmetrical. Okay, I have noticed something now that I didn't notice during the flight. I mean, I noticed that it was auto trim constantly, but I didn't realize it was because the thrust levels were not parallel to each other. Anyway, at 3,500 feet, I made my power reduction, and I'm now accelerating. I'm coming close to the altitude 5,000 feet, so I should be reducing the rate of climb. I didn't do a good job this time. Usually 1,000 feet to go, I want to be 1,000 feet a minute. Flaps are still 1, they're about to get retracted. They're in transit now. Alright, now I'm taking control of the rate of climb. Speed is increasing, that's perfect. Soon I'll realize that I'm not flying where I want to go. But it's not entirely wrong, because I am kind of outbound, which is correct, but I don't want to go outbound in that direction. I want to be 90 degree to the localizer. So 6,000 feet is achieved. The minimal overshoot, that's fine. Now I realize the heading is not correct. I don't want to establish on a radial 340. That will be a very small arc. So, but that's good. Good to have this sort of mental picture of where we are in space. Even if we make a mistake, that's fine. The important is to understand what we've done, understand where we are, and even more important, understand where we should be going to get to where we want to be. So I wasn't too disappointed, and I don't mind admitting my own mistakes. So now the speed is good, the altitude is good, within parameter at least. Now I'm dragging the tail of the bearing pointer towards a QDR 280, which is what I really want to be in, more or less. So we have flaps up, gear up. After the go checklist is completed, 6,000 feet, 200 knots, perfect. So all I have to do now is to go out to a 15 DME arc, which to me means 2 miles before. At 30 miles, I will have to turn right to enter into the 15 DME arc clockwise, and then fly the arc until I meet the localizer at 15 miles on final.
500. 400. 300. 200.
Trim.
Here we go now at 14 and a half miles. At this point I will be using the bearing pointer to mark my teardrop outbound heading, which is 294. I will prepare the clock for the 1 minute time. Just before 17.4 miles we'll be turning left for the heading. One mile to go. That's 17 miles now. 0.4 mile before I'm gonna turn. 17.4. And timing start level on the 294 heading for 1 minute. That's the first part of the teardrop entry to this 144 inbound right turn holding pattern at 5,000 feet, which is the end of the go around. Quick look at the fuel. Always be fuel aware. For any doubt, quick consultation of the chart is a good idea. Memorizing procedure and having a clear picture in mind is part of the exercise. Coming up to 1 minute, I will be using the bearing point, the heading selector, to mark my inbound course 144. That's it. 5 seconds to go. 9, 10, go. The next target is to put that bearing pointer at the 144 mark. doesn't matter if we overshoot it a little bit here. It's part of the procedure, that's fine. And as we do all this, we want to keep these 5,000 feet and 200 knots. All the parameters, bank angle 30, not to exceed, good altitude, good speed. That's what this is all about. Keeping the aircraft always under control, precisely on the parameter that we have selected. See that now the bearing pointer is moving into bigger radials, higher values, but that's okay. We'll be going on the other side of the bearing pointer to bring it back to 144. We made it to 22 miles, so we have time before the fix. That will come at 17 miles. 17.4 actually, to be more precise. Yeah, so we went to the right side of the pointer, so to push it to the left. As the station moves to our left, .4, that's 2 miles before the fix. Once approaching the fix, I'll keep on flying straight inbound to establish on the 15 DME clockwise arc from the VOR. I would say now we are onto the 144 course inbound. I no longer need the heading bug as a reference, so I put it runway heading. I don't need it anymore. Doing the arc, I don't use bearing pointer. Now at 16.7 miles I decide to turn left, to put the bearing pointer abeam to my right and establish on the 15 dB arc. .5 looks like it's working out. 0.3, we're officially in the arc, and the bearing pointer is now abeam. I should decrease that DME by 0.3 of a mile, so I'm gonna place the bearing pointer ahead of my right wing. You should see the number decreasing pretty soon. 15.2 as expected. 0.1. And 15.0 perfectly onto the arc. Let's put now the bearing pointers exactly abeam. And then, okay, localizer live, 2 degrees of bank just to freeze the situation. Now the aperture between the ILS front course and the bearing pointer is about 20 degrees. Still too much to decide to turn inbound. .1 DME. It's perfect. 0.0, even more perfect, if at all possible. When it's 10 degrees or less, it will be then time to turn inbound. I see I put the engine to idle, reducing speed to prepare myself for configuration. That's flap 1, it's in transit, and now flaps 1 extended, counteracting the very strong ballooning effect of this aircraft. I don't know how realistic that is. That's 10 degrees of aperture now. Time to turn inbound. There it goes. The ID bottom left of the HSI is there in your Mike Quebec uniform. Glide slope is now alive. At least it's sensed. Watch out for the altitude and correcting. And I'm good when I see that. Doesn't matter if we go 80 or 100 feet below or above, as long as we see it immediately and we correct it immediately. Right, I'm gonna wing level here, waiting for that localizer to become alive. And there it comes, lock alive. We're on the lock with wind from the right, so we will definitely overshoot a little bit. Because we are 1,000 feet lower, it was going to take longer for that glide slope to become alive. We are now 11 miles, another mile probably. Earlier we did this at 6,000 feet. That's the glide slope alive. Good localizer. I usually put flap 2 as we capture. One dot. Coming up to the glide slope. Time to transition into the glide slope by inputting a very shallow rate of descent. Flap transiting to 2, and we have flap 2 extended. Had to dive down a little to recapture the glide slope, still within limits. My aim is to never let it go beyond 1 dot, both lock and glide. Gear down, since I'm struggling with engine idle to keep up with the rate of descent and the speed. Gear down, 3 green, lock. I think I have flap 3 now. That will definitely do. And we are locking the glide perfect. Next thing is to get to the final approach speed. Current altitude is already set, flaps is full, and we're good now. Now we have to focus on this primary flight display, keep our eyes on our parameters: lock, glide, speed, wind, rate of descent. Right, we are 1000 feet before the minima. I messed up with, with the switches of my joystick here. Apologies. I don't mind these kind of distractions, because then I have to fix whatever happens. It's part of the exercise. It's fine. So from now on, lock and glide should be more carefully kept, especially when we come to the minima. Microscopic variation from here on, and focus. Good lock, good glide, good speed. 500 feet before the minimum. Good lock, good glide, good speed. At 2800, which is 100 feet before the minimum, I will raise my eyes and I will transition to visual, still flying the lock and glide, and then on the final stage of the approach I will then look mostly at the buzzy. That's the time now to raise my eyes. Yeah, perfect position for landing. Wind is still from the right, what is it, 5 knots-ish. Little correction there. Fly the lock, fly the glide. Widen the view. That's a flight simulator trick. It's okay to go a bit low over the threshold, because we're visual with obstacles, flare, idle. Keep the center line as much as possible. And touchdown. Let it bleed its speed. This aircraft has no reversers. Touch of brakes. And let go. Touch of brakes. Taxi speed. And with a tiller, let's get out of the runway. Flaps up. Clear left, clear right. Transponder. Standby. Landing light, taxi light. That's the after landing flow. Let's now taxi back to parking. Let's pull up the taxi chart. Airport 10-9. There it is, and that's where we are. We're gonna park in front of the tower as usual. Here we go. That's the end of the exercise. These hand flown, raw data, no automatic, like no autopilot, no flight director, no auto throttle exercise is what I do regularly just to keep my skills alive and kicking. And I do suggest everybody to make this kind of use of the flight simulator to actually train, practice real piloting skills, and not to just push buttons, which is fun. It's good to see, to go into this Airbus 320 and play with the FMC, MCDU, call it as you wish, but that's something that requires close to zero skills. What the flight simulator are really great for, and nobody I think use them this way, is to learn real piloting skill. And if you're a real pilot, they're also a fantastic tool to train and keep your basic flying skills alive, conventional navigation skills. That's my religion. That's what I advise people to do. That's what I advertise and advocate all the time. So thank you folks for having flown with me. Once again, if you like this kind of video, put a like in, and if you want to make a comment, put it down below. You can also subscribe to the channel. I have now decided to create content in English as well, so if that's the language you can understand, you'll find some content right there. Other than that, I wish you all a very nice day, and thank you for flying with me once again, and see you next time. Bye bye.